In this lesson, we'll be looking at the Contour PostScript output node. So with this particular output node, we'll be able to take our contour lines and actually output those in a PostScript format. In other words, some kind of a vector format that can be read in by something like Illustrator or any other kind of vector application. So as you can see right now, I've already got this scene set up for some basic contour lines. So let's take a look at how we can output these in a PostScript format. Now this is an actual node that can be found over in the Hypershade, but really this is going to be applied on your camera. So in your perspective view, go to View, select Camera, take a look inside the attributes, and we're going to scroll down until we come to the Mental Ray tab. So let's expand this, and once you expand the Mental Ray area, you should see a section for output shaders. Let's scroll down. Let's create a new output shader. Alright, so that'll make a new pass. This will be able to hold the information that we're about to write into it. Now, as far as what determines what is actually going to be written into this pass, that's going to be controlled by the output shader. And this is where we're going to plug in our PostScript output node. So let's click on the checkered button, we'll scroll down, and we're going to plug in the light map, or rather the contour PostScript node. There we go. Now initially, once we try to render this out, we will be met with an error. You can see even though I hit render, nothing happens. But if I take a look inside the output window, you'll see that we do get an error while trying to actually render this out. Now this is an error that comes about with all of these PostScript shaders. Fortunately though, this is a fairly simple problem to fix. All we have to do is take a look inside the PostScript node, take a look at the input and output connections. That'll display the pass that we just connected in. And really to fix this, all we have to do is take the PostScript node, disconnect it from the pass, and then reconnect it again. And the second time we connect it, now it will work correctly. So within this PostScript node, before we can actually use this, there are a couple of things we need to set up. One is determining the actual paper size, or the document size that's going to be output. And we can change these to correspond to legal paper size, letter size, executive size, A4, A5. Typically, I find that it's really useful to just leave this set to 4. This will take care of most situations. This will give us an 8.5 by 11 document. We can also actually scale up the size of the image if we need to. For the most part, though, really the only thing that we will actually need to adjust is the file name. So this is the name of the PostScript file that will be written out for us. In our case, we can just simply call this contourlines.ps. Right, so that'll make a PostScript file for us. And now, once we render this out, we can just go to the rendering menu, just use our batch render. Now, once that batch render is complete, if we take a look inside our current Mental Ray project, or our current Maya project, and if we take a look inside render data, inside of Mental Ray, we can now see the contour lines PostScript file that we just output. So if we want, we could open this in something like Illustrator. So once we actually open this PostScript file in something like Illustrator, you can see the result that we get. So you'll see that all of our data, as far as the contour lines, have now been written out in this vector format. So we can easily grab any of these points and start to manipulate and tweak these any way that we choose. We can apply any sort of effects that this application allows us to. Now you will notice, though, that all the data is output in black and white, and that is one of the limitations of this contour PostScript node, is that irregardless of what sort of color information we had applied in Maya, this will always be written out with black contour lines and white fill data. So you can see that we do have things like the orientation of our scene. You see that it's oriented in a landscape format, so this is, if we were to zoom out of this, we could actually see the paper orientation, and this is, again, kind of aligned in more of a landscape format. We do have things like the title that are included as far as the actual file name as well as its frame number. Now if we jump back over to Maya, you will see that we do have options as far as controlling whether or not that title appears and whether or not we have the orientation set to a landscape, or if we disable that, this will be set to more of a horizontal outlay. Alright, so that's a look at how we can utilize this contour PostScript output node.